Hello and welcome. You may be on video right now seeing me beam, or you may be listening to this, but if you are anywhere around me right now or witnessing this energy, you can feel how excited I am to bring this guest on with us today. Today, we get to bask in the glory of all that is Rachel Lang. You may know Rachel because she is everywhere with her videos on Instagram, TikTok, and she is so insightful. And she has this wonderful podcast, The Rachel Lang Show, that I love. And she's very special in my heart and in my life. She is one of my guides, spirit guide right here on earth. She actually was a force helping us launch this podcast. She's this incredible astrologer that helped me choose the right date for it. And she's also a psychic medium. A lot of people don't know that about her, and she's going to share some of that insight with us today. And one of the main reasons I want to bring her on is because, of course, she's amazing. And she wrote a book called Modern Day Magic. And that's what this podcast is about. So without further ado and with great joy, I bring you Rachel Lang. Hello.
Hi, Kari. Thank you so much. Anyone who's watching on video can see me as much as you. Because first of all, I just love you. I love your podcast. I love your YouTube channel. And yeah, and I'm so honored to be a part of your show and to be here with you today.
Yes.
So thank you.
I hope we don't blow up like my microphone, because I'm like have so much energy like radiating right now. I'm like, am I going to do something with the electronics? Yes, I'm so glad. I feel like, and I don't know if we've even discussed this before, but you always felt like a soul sister, very kinship to me. And I'm just so glad that I know you, and I'm glad that everyone's going to get to know you now too. So yay!
Same. I know. I think I don't even remember when I discovered your YouTube channel, but I've known of you. I've followed you. I've been a part of your world even before we met.
Oh, so nice.
So it's great.
Yeah, me too. So it was really like, I love how divine synchronicity brought us together. And I think we always have that, right? Like the people that you're meant to meet, you're always going to meet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you guys for bringing us together. So I want to talk to you. Oh, so many things. We're going to have you back already. But I want to talk to you about your book, Modern Day Magic, and of course, the lessons that you share in Modern Day Magic. In this podcast, we always end with magic lessons, and you literally wrote a book on it. So I want to begin by perhaps defining for people what modern day magic is.
Yeah. So the definition, so I've spent most of my life, even in childhood, but so most of my life thinking about magic, reveling in magic, practicing magic. Even when I didn't know that's what I was doing, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I've also studied it academically as well in my master's program in theology school. So the definition I use for magic is that magic is the prime creative force that brings us into wondrous relationship with all life.
Wondrous? Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about what that means? Like, what is a wondrous relationship with all of life?
Yeah. Well, wondrous, I mean, when you think about the energy of wonder, it is eyes wide open innocence. It is curiosity. It is seeing the world as a place that is full of miracles. And even though you see some of the more complicated, challenging stuff that is painful, you can view it with the curiosity of why is this here and what can we do about it? And then the relationship, so magic is relational. In fact, there's a real difference between the religious ideology that separates us from the divine and the practice of magic, which is basically embodying the divine and being our bodies being magic wands connecting the invisible and the visible, you know?
My body's a magic. Talk about loving your body. Like my body's a magic wand.
Yes,
So much.
yes, yeah. Yeah, and when you see your physical self that way, then it's really hard to look around the world and say that nature isn't magical or that other people in your life aren't magical, even when they're pushing your buttons and driving you crazy.
As they can.
So, yeah, yeah.
So how is your body a magic wand?
Yeah. Well, in order to manifest anything, and I think a lot of people conflate magic with manifestation.
Yes.
And I think the modern practice of magic has really been a lot about manifesting.
Like a perverted
And
version of it, in my opinion.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
perverted is a strong word, but you know what I mean? It's become like perverse in the sense that there's a spiritual materialism to it that it's kind of like anytime you take something and like, wasn't tobacco was like part of a magical
Yeah.
ceremonial
Uh-huh.
essence. And now when you exploit something, sometimes it can lose its magic too.
Totally.
So
Yes.
that was another thing I wanted to talk to you about, like the difference between magic and magical thinking. But do go on.
For sure. Yeah. So, so, but ultimately, the spirit of manifestation is that we have these
Yeah.
desires, and the desires are coming from within us,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also coming from within the collective that we're a part of, and that we are instruments. We're an instrument in some way, playing our own note in the chorus of the cosmos. And so manifestation is really bringing together desire, whether it's conscious and known or unconscious, and materiality. It's bringing something into form. And in order to do that, we have to love being a part of the world. We have to actually love our bodies. You know, this is where we access spirit from within our own framework, within our own bodies, so that our sensations. This is how we know. This is how we reference our spirituality, is through our embodied experience. And every mystical tradition that I've studied, and I haven't studied all of them, but every mystical tradition, that's one thing they have in common, is felt sense of spirit. And that's really what magical practices, earth-centered religion does too. It says that we're a part of the world, we're here, we're natural, and we're supernatural at the
Yes,
same
I
time.
actually say the same thing. Rachel, we were so, maybe when we were in our past lives, we studied at the
Yeah,
same mystery school.
I know we must have totally been at the same mystery
Oh my gosh.
schools.
And now here we are in this mystery school
Yeah,
on the internet.
yeah.
So I love this because it's very much a foundation of my teaching as well, especially for empaths. And I don't know what your childhood was like, but I was definitely up here in the etheric realm. And when I realized I was psychic, the main thing I had to work on was grounding. It wasn't getting connected to the divine, it was grounding and cleansing my chakras and really balancing my lower three chakras, which are your roots. And every time I teach anything about being a psychic or intuitive studies or empath empowerment, it's always grounding, always
Mm-hmm.
being in your body. And this is kind of what I was talking about and referring to with the like, maybe the perversion of things. Like there's come to be an aspect with new age spirituality that is magical thinking and spiritual bypassing that like you don't have to do anything and somehow you're better than everyone. It's become just like every other religion that we pretend that we don't
Right.
like, right? So it's like
Yes.
all you need to do is believe and you will be in the fifth dimension. And like, you know, you don't have to deal with the third dimension, or I don't know what happened to the fourth dimension, but like there's this sense that like it's all about like transcending the earth and not being here. And there's a lot of talk about ascension, but not a lot of talk about being here. And there would not be a reason you incarnated if you didn't want to experience the confines of time and space and being in a physical body. And it is the core. And this is why trees, like everything in nature, has the roots and the grounding, and then you grow up toward the light. So it's so important to accept our reality and really like accept and love your body, your life, and all the things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of that, I think a lot of that is, what you said, it's carryover from other spiritual, more patriarchal traditions
Yes.
that really taught this binary organization or organizing principle of the universe.
Yeah.
That that we are separate, that the polarities are separate in some way.
Yeah.
Light and dark,
Yeah.
earth and heaven, body and spirit. And one thing I love so much about magic and why I've studied it, why I practice it, is because it is the integration. And when we are integrated, body, spirit, masculine, feminine, if you want to put those words in there too, the gendered terms in there, light and dark, when we really accept the wholeness of who we are and the different forms of frequencies and energies in the earth, then we can work with it. Then we can play with it. We can dance with it. And it doesn't become, something we have to guard. It doesn't become something that is the antithesis of us.
Yeah.
It becomes us, that we can choose how we respond to it. But it all comes within the body.
I love that. So can you share with us some more how to use your body and be in your body as a magic wand? Can you share some more of that with us?
Of course, of course. There are so many different practices for this. And it's funny, my guidance like wants me to go right to the heart of it with you,
Go
Kari.
for it. Yes. Listen to your guidance.
Well, first of all, you can do rituals.
Yeah.
You can, at the full moon or the new moon, you could set intentions. You could do rituals for healing. You could actually place your hands on someone in pain and allow spirit to move through you and heal and work with your hands in a healing capacity. A lot of Reiki. I know you're a Reiki teacher.
I'm not a Reiki teacher.
Oh,
no,
you're not?
No, my guides are a Reiki teacher. They just taught me to do hands-on stuff. And
okay,
no, that's not, I'm a lot of things, in the healing realm. I took Reiki, but I'm like, wait, I've been doing this forever. Like, so, but I know like people would say, no, you need the symbols that have been like, but like all traditions, like you said, have a form of like, you're the channel, right?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And so those are ways, like working with your hands in a hands-on healing practice is a way. But also there are lesser known, lesser popularized forms of using your body as a magic wand. And, there are traditions. I can't say that I've explored this personally, but there are traditions that date back to ancient times, and the ancient Vestal virgins that were offering their lives to the goddess Vesta, they used to use sex magic, where they would send soldiers off to war. And people, it's kind of like becoming more popular right now. It's becoming something that people are talking about. But like using your body, using the energy that you build up during any kind of musical, art, meditation, sexual practice, building up the energy and then focusing that in a certain way is using your body as a magic wand.
Well, you are also a very creative and artistic person. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Venus is your ruler, right? And
yes.
I also am very creative, and I always teach about that being creative is your connection to the divine.
Mm-hmm.
Because the words too, like we are made in the image of the creator and we are co-creating. So it's like, wouldn't creativity be a part of that? And being in that right brain kind of mode where you're in the flow and you're letting things come to you and images come. Can you talk more about art or creativity as a means to create magic?
Absolutely. So magical processes involve two things: intention, which is the statement of desire, and attention. There are other things too, but just breaking it down really simply, attention is focused energy, focused emotions, body, mind, spirit. You are 100% focusing all your light on one thing and then letting go. So anytime we are in a creative endeavor, whether it's making a painting, and I do magic art with
that's yours.
Like talent.
Oh, yeah, she's pointing people on. You got to go onto the video if you want to see her beautiful painting. Or do you have these on a website somewhere?
I don't, but I'm building one.
Yay!
Right now,
so if you're listening in the future or mark it for the future, she has a beautiful painting with gold and white and these beautiful, like a sacred geometry.
Yeah, it's actually Venus Cazimi. So it's Venus in the heart of the sun.
Yes.
And so I painted it with Venus Cazimi with that influence. And under the first layer is all just love, written probably about, several hundred, I don't even know how many times, but real small all over the entire painting. And so that's like, it's a talisman. And so the creative process, that's kind of a big format of the creative process. But the whole time I'm painting, I'm bringing in the energy, the frequency, the spirit of the intention of love, so that anytime someone looks at it, they're like, "Oh, love." And people make amulets, they make talismans, they make jewelry, they make magical symbols. There are so many different things you can do. And it's really about capturing the essence of what you want to bring into physical form.
And you're making it physical.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that's what we do. Now this is where the upper chakras come in, right? Like we are channeling these inspirational messages, symbols, feelings, and we're bringing it down to form. Where do you think people get lost? Do you think they don't know what an inspiration is? Do they think, like sometimes I think people think it should be more than it is. As an intuitive, I've learned to look at every symbol that comes into my head as a message, or every symbol that comes around me as a message. And I think what happens to people is they start to think, oh, I'm just imagining things, or I'm just thinking that.
Yeah, I think people get lost one of three different ways. The first one, you referenced magical thinking. Magical thinking is disembodied. It is, I am feeling in my body that this is not going to happen, and I don't want to pay attention to that. I'm feeling in my body that I'm not going to meet my love on March 14th of 2025. And then I'm probably not going to meet my love by March of 2026. I'm feeling in my body like I don't really want a relationship, but I don't want to know that. Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna dream about it. So that's one way. Magical thinking is, I know deep down inside this is not going to come to fruition, and I don't want to believe it.
So it's not going to come into fruition. But you're thinking, oh, I just want this to happen, and I don't want to deal with any shadow of healing, or the feel to heal body aspect of being human, which is very challenging.
Yeah.
So right, like your body talks to you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it tells you if you're aligned to an intention or not. And instead of going into the I'm not aligned to it and why, we go to I'm not even going to look at that. Nope, I'm totally aligned. You can't tell me otherwise.
Yes.
And I've sat across from so many people in session, and I can usually feel my sign for this is out of alignment is my body will literally turn like a corkscrew in a session.
Me too.
Does that happen to you too? No.
My body's a barometer. And when people are talking, because you and I don't do one-on-one sessions anymore. At least not now. It's funny. I've been dreaming about it. So I have to pay attention to my dreams about some things, but I mean, my like my nighttime dreams, not my daydreams. But anyway, when I was doing one-on-one sessions, and even now when I do group readings or whatever, even if I'm reading a word, I'll feel how my body feels. And I can tell when someone is lying to themselves. And I did this. I first discovered this when I was teaching acting, actually. And I didn't know I was psychic. And the thing is, when you're acting, you want to be in a truth. You want to say, like, I believe you. And I would say, no. And this is what's going on in your head. And people were like, oh, you're psychic. And I was like, no, I just don't believe you. But that actually carried forth in my psychic practice, in knowing when people are lying, and I feel it in my body. And I would encourage everyone to practice what Rachel's talking about here and feeling in your body. Can you talk more about how to feel things in your body?
Yeah, it's something that I think we do all the time and we don't even know it. And one example is, we have these nervous system responses. Like these are all very biological, physiological. When you're nervous, you might get butterflies in your stomach. When you don't like something that you're saying, you might bite your lip or bite your tongue or rub your nose. Like these are very standard responses. And what usually happens is we just kind of overlook it. Like you're in a conversation and all of a sudden you have to go to the bathroom really badly. A lot of times that happens because you're pissed off about something or you're angry or you want to get out of a situation. And when you start stopping and saying, instead of just like responding to the body, saying, okay, what do you need? What is, okay, I hear you. What do you need? Then you start developing a relationship with the guidance system that your body is. And so the example I used of the corkscrew, when someone's saying something and it's off, it doesn't resonate for me, I will feel like I'm turning, like I'm literally being turned away from somebody and out of alignment.
Isn't that so literal?
Yeah.
I thank your body for being so literal, right? Like to know. And that's interesting because, again, getting back to how manifesting and magic has been taught is that we only need to think it.
Yes. Yeah. And no. We need to embody it.
It's a perversion. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not just your thoughts. Your thoughts create your feelings, but also your feelings tell you what to think. Like you're having all these physiological responses every time you meet someone, every time you walk into a room, and we're taught like, you know what? Don't be judgmental or like give it a chance or whatever. And we're also taught now that, this brand of manifesting has been made popular. We're taught that we just need to think things. And then what are we doing? We're cutting ourselves off from our body.
Right. And from other people and from the earth.
Now that's sad.
So, yeah. So this is the part about the relationship, about magic as being connecting. Because there are sometimes when the things that you think you want, the things that you are setting an intention for, are incongruent with other people in your life or with the earth. And an example I see a lot is when I'm working with a client, and one client and they want to have a baby, and they want to have a baby, and they want to have a baby, and they're coming at this like they're the only soul that needs to be manifesting. But they don't realize that they're working with the soul of the partner. They're working with the soul of the baby, even the souls of the baby's future partner and their future children. There are so many energies, different energies needing and wanting different things at any time. And we're just one small fraction of that. And so what I like is I like for magic to remind us of how powerful we are, to think that all of the intentions that we set are actually designed to help us evolve on our path. Intentions are not always designed to be fulfilled.
Wow.
And
that's hard medicine.
It's a hard one. Yeah. Because your soul needs to climb a ladder. It needs to get to it needs to check off certain rungs on the ladder. That's why it came here. And if it has a sense of where the ladder is climbing, then it's going to be more inclined to go through those rungs. But having a desire, and can I just use an example?
Please, that's why you're here. Okay. We want you to share your beautiful life and your beautiful self.
Thank you. So, an example that I have, and if you read my book, you'll see it, is that the whole reason why I started writing my book was because we were trying to start a family. And so my desire, that light at the top of the ladder, was being a mother, of having a family, of bringing a child into the world, however it was going to happen. And ultimately we did achieve, or we didn't achieve. Ultimately, we did manifest. That desire manifest. And then right away, our daughter passed. And so I can't look at, so in retrospect, looking at all of the soul learning and growing and evolving and healing that we did along that journey, I can't look at the outcome and say that the journey wasn't worth it, or that wasn't magical too.
Rachel, I mean, most people couldn't even live through that. Do you know what I mean?
I almost didn't. So,
and that
so
you could be talking. I mean, I think we all just need to pause and honor that experience. We can't just be like, blah, 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 magic. Like, and the fact that you can even talk about this in this way. And I know so many people that wonder why difficult things happen to them, or like why they had a desire or a really strong intuition that led them on a path to something that was very hard in the end.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing harder than having that experience. The fact that you can talk about it is, I mean, like you say, in some ways very magical, that you can have such a spiritual perspective, and to share it is really, it's first of all a testimony to your strength and your courage and your wisdom, because that's hard medicine. And for your soul to want to go through that so that you can teach other people. And I think a lot of people, and this is the difference too between the internet and what's really happening in life. Like, if someone saw you on the internet, they would be like, that woman has never had anything bad happen to her or anything hard, because look how calm and like amazing she is. Do you know what I'm saying? And yet you've been through this incredible journey that is such an advanced lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the hard, losing a child is the hardest thing someone can go through.
Yes.
It really is. And there were, this was there for a long time. I couldn't talk about it, or I would talk about it in a very disassociated way. And only recently can we have this conversation, even though I'm a medium. And so I'm really lucky that I get to have a relationship with my daughter that continues on. I feel very, very privileged for that. Um, uh, Thank you. She's always there. Um, but it's it's such an integral part of my story because I essentially that whole experience taught me everything that I now teach when it comes to magic. And it's like I said, the painful experiences that we go through. This is why it's important to integrate the dark and the light. Why it's important not to judge the dark or the sadness or the depression or the grief or when we go into really hard times. We are as magical when we are grieving as we are when we are blissed out, feeling in love.
That's really profound. And you'll know this because you've taught me in sessions that one of the reasons I almost didn't do this podcast was I wasn't feeling very magical. I've had a challenging few years and, well, a bunch of maybe challenging life in a lot of ways, right? And people have this perception of me, and I really wanted to do this podcast so people saw all of it. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to have my whole presentation be like an embodiment of magical thinking. Yeah. Because I do put a positive spin on things, just like you do. Like I feel and know that the universe is always teaching us to be better, stronger, more loving people. Mm-hmm. And we take on challenges to help us do that.
Right.
And if I came here to be a spiritual teacher or a messenger of love, I have to go through some lessons. It's easy to like have love or say you love someone, like a partnership, right? It's easy to say that you love someone when everything is great. Or you're going to see them through a dark time. And so one of the reasons I was so excited to bring you on here was not just to talk about magic, like everything is sparkles, but I really think it's important to address magical thinking and the embodiment of the full range of emotions that we go through. And anyone that you admire, anyone who's listening, anyone that you admire has been through some things. Right. I mean, they are tempered, and we have to master our spiritual lessons. And when we can embody and go through that with our bodies, like, okay, I'm going to feel what it's like to be a sensitive being, which means that I am sensitive to the pain of the world. And you're very political, as am I, right? Because we are very, and that's another part of magical thinking. It's like, Rachel, by the way, in her spare time is somehow a city council person in California. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, God has blessed you, Rachel. Yeah. Like you're,
and anything I say is not reflective of the city.
But you, like that's another part of magical thinking and not embodying things. Like a lot of very spiritual people think like, to me, like love and light is the equivalent of thoughts and prayers. Like when we have something terrible happen, it's like, oh, thoughts and prayers. And I'm like, oh, love and light. Like, let's just think good things. And this is where you're talking about action. And I'm so grateful. And it's funny because I think if anyone would look at the two of us, they would probably think these are the least two people to talk about shadow.
I know. But everybody has a shadow. Everyone's got. And shadow, I've come to learn that shadow is it's like where all the juice is. That is like, if you think about the shadow in terms of the lower chakras.
Yes.
Because that's where a lot of our shadow stuff is. when, the one of the reasons why we don't manifest, I'm just using that term.
No, and we have to, because that's what people know.
Yeah. But one of the reasons why people don't believe in their own power to create their lives is because the shadows are out there creating at the same
Yeah.
time that your conscious self is
Yeah.
creating. And so many practices that I'm aware of that bring you into the shadow, that allow you to really heal and clear that shadow stuff, that that's how you become more sensitive to the energies, sensitive to the magic all around you.
So fascinating. And even I bringing you on didn't know this is where this conversation would go in terms
I
of
know.
shadow. And
Uh-huh.
and if anyone's been on a podcast, a lot of people go like, here's some questions I'd like, or some podcast people will say, what questions would you like? Rachel and I are like, we don't know. We're just going to see where spirit takes us,
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
we're here as vessels. Where
Uh-huh.
does spirit want us to talk about? What does spirit want us to share? And so, how can people embody these difficult emotions or experiences and have it be magic? Can you share a little
Mm-hmm.
bit about that, or a lot about that?
Yeah.
However much, and we'll bring you on again.
Well, I mean, it is tricky. I want to say that, I'm not a
Yes.
psychologist, and so I understand. So we're not even talking about mental health or emotional swings. We're not talking about this on a physical level. And I understand that people with different perspectives or different experiences of privilege also have a whole relationship with their emotions and what they feel like they can express and what they can't. And so I'm just sharing just from my own experience, that in my experience working with a lot of people, that the times when we are really going through a difficult time, and we're having those emotions like sadness, resentment, bitterness, grief, that what we want to do is not ignore those or disassociate. We don't want to check out and doom scroll. We don't want to, take a shot of alcohol and, turn it off, because there's juice, that's creative
Yeah.
juice. So basically, it's like, I am not going to tap into this creative well here, but we don't want to get stuck in that well either. And so I like to do practices like, you know, uh, there's a lot that you can do, like embodied practices like walking. Bilateral stimulation is really great. Yeah, walking is so
I
healing.
love
So
walking.
if you're sad, go and get outside. Yes, there's value in talking to a therapist and talking to a friend, but there's also value in transmuting that energy. If it doesn't feel good, you can transmute. And the way that you transmute is by, you can do a meditation practice. You can imagine a ball of light in front of you and like breathe, exhale out all of that emotion that you don't want to feel anymore. You can put it into that ball of light. You can squeeze it. You can clap it. You can throw it up into the heart of the divine. You can throw it down into the core of the earth. But like, there are so many practices, and it can be playful. That, transmutation is a word that conjures up thoughts of Pluto and Scorpio and like, but it's actually can be really, really playful, and it works really well when you're laughing.
Yes. And the thing about spirit guides too is they're
Uh-huh.
very
Yeah, yeah.
hilarious, I've noticed.
Yes. Yeah.
And like when we're kids, we're like, oh my God, this is so terrible. This happened. And as adults, we're like, it's okay. It's going to be okay.
Yes.
That's how my spirit guides are with me, or my clients or students or whatever. They're like, if you just pull yourself out and allow some levity, of course, with situations like what you're talking about, or like what a lot of people experience, it's hard to have levity. But at the same time, I do see people like in war zones or whatever, and they're drinking tea and playing music and doing what they
Yeah.
can to lift their
Yeah.
spirits, because that's a
Right.
survival technique too.
Yeah. And I think we underestimate the value of that for raising the vibration of the planet. I think we undermine the value of our own joy,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Well, we see joy is, first of all, a motivator, right?
Yeah.
And because people want to be drawn to something, not away from something, right? And so when you have joy, it can motivate you to overcome things. So it's to find the joy in any situation. Look for that bird or the flower or the puppy or the rainbow, even like after the rain. Like, look for the joy in the smallest things and create it. And this is why creativity and art, people are very much about, well, how is that going to help me find a job? Or how is that going to help me find a partner? It absolutely will help you with all of those things. Because first of all, people respond to your energy.
They do. Yeah.
And as you can cultivate joy through creativity, through play, through laughter, sometimes fake it till you make it. Like I said, like I wasn't feeling very magical before I started this podcast, but because I'm in my element, I'm like, oh my God, I love what I'm doing and I love connecting with people. And it brought it for me.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to be in that fake it till you make it place till you can cultivate that. You're cultivating that energy, and creativity and play and laughter will help you get through those dark times and embody the energy of joy, not just think about what I want to have joy and try to muster it in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I think of those things like the new job or the relationship or the things that we create in our lives. I think about them like with the analogy of the mushrooms.
What kind of mushrooms are we talking about? They're so
any kind.
Okay.
Mycelium. Like, well, so mycelium are so interesting. It's this whole web of communication.
Oh, right, the way mushrooms grow.
Yes, the way mushrooms grow. Exactly. I'm sorry, not. No,
all the mushrooms. I mean, hey, those are making a comeback too. Magic mushroom.
I know. Yeah, but mushrooms are so interesting because there's this whole mycelial network of energy, and then there's a mushroom that pops up when it's time. Like, oh, here you go. The energy's right. All the conditions are perfect. Here's a mushroom, and it comes out of the soil, or it grows on a tree branch or something like that. And that's kind of how our lives are too. We have to feed the undercurrent of creative energy, of magic. And we do that through our rituals, our intention setting, our emotions. We also do it through the healing that we do to remove some of those limitations and limiting beliefs. And then once the conditions are right, then the new job comes up.
Yeah.
But the new job is not the end goal. Feeding this whole network of energy is the goal.
That's so true. Because what's the point of that? What's the point of the new job? What's the point of the relationship if you're not loving yourself? What's the point of the relationship if you haven't cleared your fears of rejection or abandonment? Well, sometimes you bring in the relationship to help you clear that, right? Whatever. Yes. But it's not going to be the perfect thing. Nothing's going to be the perfect thing because everything is here to help you grow. One of the things that when you were talking about using your hands, can you talk about how someone can play with that, especially with maybe animals?
Ooh, yes. Ooh, can we do a practice here?
Yes, please. And remember, some people are listening, so they can't see everything.
For those who are listening, you can rub your palms together.
Okay. Am I doing this too?
And especially, there are these little secondary chakras right in the center of the palm. And these are connected to actually Mars, astrologically. And Mars is the fire starter. Mars gets us heated up. So rub them together and now kind of put your hands together and so slowly separate them. And you might notice this force that kind of pushes them far apart.
It pushes and pulls at the same time.
Yes, it pushes and pulls at the same time. And see how far they go until you start losing the connection between, there's like a little thread of energy that goes between the palms, and then kind of play with bringing them back together. And just, this is your energy. This is your power. This is your light. And the hands are basically extensions of the heart, because all of the energy and the more you're smiling and the more your heart is lifted, and the more you feel love, the more you feel gratitude, the bigger that ball of energy gets.
Wow. It's even bigger. It's getting bigger just talking about it. Yeah, I'm like that girl that blows up at Willy Wonka, like just keep expanding. Like this ball is just blowing.
I both have our hands so far out that the camera's not even showing it right now. And so you can take this energy and you can put it anywhere. You can put it on your computer if it's not working. You can put it on. Animals are so responsive to it. So responsive.
Yes.
And so if you generate that energy, that heat, you generate that energy, you bring it from your heart, and you put your hands on one of your little fur babies, they're going to look at you and they're going to probably roll over and say more.
That's so good.
Do you have any practices, Kari, that you like to use?
I do something very similar where I'll go through the day in my head about the things that are going to happen, and I'll create a river of light to move through them so that everything is flowing and blessed with this light. But you can also bless it with your hands, right? You can bless this, you write it down and bless that with your hands. I do something called meditating, where I meditate in my bed, where I cleanse my chakras every day and imagine like a bubble, and then I'll talk to my guides, and I don't leave home without them, right? So, and the thing that is a magic practice for me is also noticing the wildlife or the animals or even the insects that happen throughout the day or things like that, because nature definitely speaks to you when you're paying attention.
Right.
Yeah. So I love that. So one other thing too is you can imagine like you're a shaman, and like imagine, ooh, I'm feeling this in my heart. So like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Does it feel sticky? Like imagine yourself pulling out that sticky energy and like sending it into a ball of light and to be dissolved, and just pull it out of you, right? Like your imagination is part of your healing mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why dreams are so powerful.
They are. Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why magical thinking can lead to magic.
Yes.
So, I mean, we want to be grounded in it, but it's not all bad to dream and want and desire and wish. When we get attached to the outcome, that's when it can be disruptive for us. We can limit the flow of magic. But just dreaming about a possibility calls it into your energy field.
And that's what you were talking about, like you're meeting the universe. It's a call and response. Like sometimes the universe will tell you something's coming, and that creates you starting to think or want it because it's starting to happen in your field. You wouldn't have the desire if the universe didn't have a desire to help you meet that. Right. So, but you have to be in partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important.
So Rachel, we could talk to you all day. I'm sure like everyone who's listening is like asking you questions, but that means I'll have to have you back. I hope you'd like to come back.
I would love that. I need to have you on mine too. I took a little bit of a break just to catch up with some workshops I was teaching, but I would love to have you on my podcast too.
Well, Rachel has this wonderful podcast, The Rachel Lang Show, which I love and listen to. And I want to share a magic lesson, and then we'll share how people can get in touch with you. So what would you share as a magic lesson? I always like to share something that's easy, that we can incorporate throughout our day with a simple integration. What magic lesson would you recommend we focus on?
Okay. I have so many here. So many. I have a whole book of them,
What does your
actually.
guide say? What does your guide say?
So my guide says the embodiment piece that we talked about today was such a great such a good. I loved our conversation about that. And so I my magic lesson would be to ask yourself a series of yes or no questions and see, what does my body respond for yes and what does my body respond for no. So for example, I told you when something's out of alignment or I'm feeling a no, I will literally feel like my spine is turning around or like I'm leaning backwards. And that is my body's way of saying, nope, not for me. And when I feel a yes, I feel like kind of light and I feel like a lifting in my chest and in my stomach, and my body pulls a little bit forward. And so it's really easy to kind of just drive down the road and see what, like, or not, if you're riding, don't drive, don't do this and drive.
Yes,
don't,
please.
we want to be careful. But
please practice at home in a nice space first.
Exactly. Like, yeah, create a meditative space or practice like when you're somewhere and you have some time and just go through a series of questions. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Is the sky green? No. Is the, and then you can get more complex questions and you can create a divination system for yourself that is just based on yes. And if you know yes and no and what that feels like in your body and in your intuition, then you can answer any question for yourself.
It's one of my favorite practices. And by the way, if you are on magic mushrooms, the sky may be green for you that day.
That's true.
So in the moment, just practice your yes and no's. Yeah. My name is, something like that, or is a good one too, or I'm wearing a pink sweater or whatever. You can ask very simple things and then you can go to more complex things. I love that magic lesson. And that's one of the things when I discovered, I wish they taught me in nursery school. And I really want everyone to get back in their bodies. And it's such a simple practice. I'm so grateful that you brought that up. And also, I'm so grateful you're here. So tell us where we can find you and about your book and all the things.
Yeah, so you can find me on rachellangastrologer.com. And my book is Modern Day Magic, 8 Simple Rules to Realize Your Power and Shape Your Life. And I also have a children's book called As Above, So Below. And I'm on Instagram at Rachel Lang Astrologer, TikTok, Rachel Lang Astrologer, and on YouTube, The Rachel Lang Show.
It's funny though, because you're so much more than an astrologer because you are a psychic medium. I think it's like a well-kept secret maybe, but I'm hoping that after this, it won't be so well-kept anymore or a secret because you are a psychic medium. So next time you come back, I want to talk to you about mediumship. Awesome. And astrology, because I'm also a psychic astrologer person, right? Yeah. Again, we went to the same mystery school back in the day.
Yeah, we did.
Some lifetime or lifetimes we were in the same mystery school. Rachel Lang, everyone. I'm so glad you got a chance to experience her magic, and hopefully this helped you experience more magic in your life. And we both love you. So I love you so much. And
thank you. And thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again. And until next time, bye for now.